Hi, this is Roger in Finland, and now that it's November, it means that Christmas is officially coming, so I thought I'm gonna make my Dear Santa request, or in this case, Dear Sony. What do I think is the perfect camera for me? So for the impatient ones, my request is actually very simple. Sony's answer to Canon's C70. I don't mean to alarm you, but today we're gonna be dreaming out loud. So yeah, I've been following very much Casey at Camera Conspiracies, and I do believe that he's found the perfect camera. He's been searching in the Sony A7S3, even though he's still in the search for another perfect camera substituting his X3000. But how about me? How about you? How about somebody else? I think all of us have different wishes and requests for what would be the perfect camera. So today I'm just gonna lay down mine. After having owned some cameras and playing around with them, what I would like is a small, versatile cinema camera with modern features that some people say that they are not belonging to a cinema camera, like autofocus, for instance. There's quite a few cameras that get pretty close to that nowadays, but maybe not as close as I would like them to get. The pocket cinema camera, especially the 6K, since I would like to have a bigger sensor than Micro Four Thirds, it definitely gets close, but it does not have proper autofocus for sure. It has atrocious battery life, and you're gonna make it kind of clunky. Another contender would be the Zcam E2S6, and I have to say that owning the E2C, that's a very, very tempting option. Form factor is, I think, pretty good because it's defined and designed to be drawn and rigged out. So basically it gives the functionality and flexibility as much and as you would like to be. I'm pretty sure that the image is brilliant. There's the Facebook group, which I have mixed feelings about it, but there's a lot of good help in there. But still, it has a similarly not great autofocus compared to let's say Sony mirrorless cameras like this A6400 that I'm shooting right now. And then there's some other quirks and potential problems because of coming from a small company. I know it has its benefits, but I would rather have at this point of time and at the price point that I'm going to be talking about something from a bigger contender. Then the C70 would be, I think, the one that I would like this new Sony camera that I'm going to call the FS3, by the way, compete against. I think the C70 does pretty much everything I want a camera to do with a form factor, which is quite close to it, but I'm just not into Canon. I have nothing against it. I have never used it, so I do not have a collection of lenses, and building a system from scratch for a like YouTube scrap hobbyist, I don't know what I'm doing here really. It's just way too much. And it's still the form and shape and how it looks to me a little bit much like somebody tried to squeeze really hard a C100 into an XC15. And that's where the C70, I even call it X70. That's where the C70 came from, really. I'm sure that it's brilliant, but I would like Sony to do something a bit better than that. Also with the C70, it has the RF mount, which has brilliant glass, but it's huge. They're heavy and they're expensive, other than the like nifty 50 that they just released. And again, if you do have a ton of EF glass, then that would make a lot of sense, but I don't. And at the risk of being accused as a Sony fanboy, which I am, but I am also a Blackmagic fanboy and a Zcam fanboy and a Nikon fanboy and a Panasonic fanboy, so take your pick. I would like to introduce you the imaginary and utopian and visionary Sony FS3. I'm gonna hold into my notes, my Dear Santa letter, and share with you what I think. So this camera does have an E mount, Super 35 sensor, kind of should be the little brother of the FX9 and FX6. The ISO would go from 200 to 100 and 2400. The sensor would be around 10 megapixels to get like the biggest pixels you can in a Super 35 sensor. It would go up to Cinema 4K 60p and Cinema 2K 120p. And I know that those are lower specs than even the Sony A7S3, but I don't need to compete it with that one. And I would hope that this would reduce the price a little bit. And again, please remember, these are the specs that I would want. If we disagree, that's totally fine. None of these modes would have any crop, including the 2K 120p. Then you could shoot 4:2 10-bit internally, and also with all intra type of codecs without long GOP. But then you would have also, of course, the lower bitrate long GOP options. Then it could actually output ProRes RAW into Atomos Ninja 5 like many other cameras do via HDMI. And it would have a variable electronic ND. And that's something that the Canon C70 does have, but the Z cams don't, not even the flagships, and not either the Blackmagic pocket cameras. I know that it's possible to have an accessory alternative mounting option thing with the Z cam, which seems to be out of stock, but I would like it to be part of the camera itself. Then you would have one full-size XLR with phantom power, 4 microphones, about 15 stop of dynamic range, which I think would put it in a very decent place. Autofocus, and I would like it to be very good, like FX9 good or A7S3 good. I could actually even with Sony A6400 good, which is a 2-year-old camera, but it still beats plenty of the modern, and leave alone the cinema cameras. And by the way, let's just address one point. You're thinking, okay, you're asking for a cinema camera with autofocus, you're silly. Real filmmakers don't use autofocus. Well, first, I'm not a real filmmaker. And second, go and check some videos from maybe, I don't know, Philip Bloom, who is a real filmmaker and who's testing like crazy autofocus from cameras like the FX9. And the FX9 implements fantastically brilliant with a lot of options autofocus. So real filmmakers say that autofocus is another tool. And if it works well, you might actually use it professionally. I don't even want to use it professionally, but it's a tool that I would appreciate very much. So that's why I'm asking to have autofocus in a cinema camera. Have the right to dream. It will be powered with MPF batteries, so that would make it a lot better than the Blackmagic options. Already from the start, it would have 2 SD and CF Express Type A combined card slots like the Sony A7S3, which I think is a brilliant implementation of media. And then it still would give you the option to record externally to an SSD through a USB-C port. Then it would have also anamorphic support for 1.33, 1.8, and 2, which means that you could plug immediately the CDE 35 and 50mm anamorphic 1.33 anamorphic lenses for E-mount into that camera, and it would just work fantastically. Just wishing. Then I think it should be extendable. So they should have some sort of Pro external module that will be plugged in the back of it, making it a little bit bigger. That would give you more professional features like SDI out, timecode, input functionalities, 2 more XLR microphone inputs, and maybe it would even open some extra RAW options. I believe that there are some other Sony cameras that operate this way, that with the external Pro extensions, well, they are already Pro, but the extensions, it opens up some codec possibilities. I will be okay with that because I wouldn't need this, so let's take it out of the initial price, but let's add it for those that need it. How about that? The form factor would be, let's say, a mini FX6, which is a mini FX9. So the camera would be definitely smaller than the FX6, would be smaller than the FS5, and it will be probably comparable in size, not in shape, to the Canon C70 and even the Zcam E2S6 or any of the flagship models. So think about that kind of size. It would include a top handle in the box, and the top handle actually would be where you would mount the monitor also. I'm not quite sure what the monitor will be fold in. The C70 has a similar monitor than the normal mirrorless cameras have, which is a nice option, but I like more the possibility of putting the monitor on top of the handle, like you would have with an FS5. So I'm sure that that could be implemented in there, and also a side handle with all the possible functionality, which is something that the Zcam guys need to go to some external options, which are great, but I would love that it would come there. Also, the battery would be included in the box, and also an AC power brick. So again, comparing it to some of the alternatives that we were mentioning before, it's a lot more ready out of the box. So that's what I would like. Well, some questions now. Why Sony E-mount? Well, it is a Sony camera. I expect you to mount Sony lenses in it. And if you look at the FS5, FS7, and probably FX6, FX9, they do have E-mount. The good thing is that sharing the E-mount between the APS-C and the full frame sensor, it means that there's a lot of options. So like the noobs like me that have already the Sigma 1.4 Trinity, the 16, 30, and 56, those 3 lenses with the FS3 would be a fantastic combination for me. Again, for me, in my opinion, for my use case, for what I want, not even what I need. A few disclaimers that come time to time. Then you get all the full frame G Masters, which are brilliant. And then because of the super short flange distance of this mount, you can adapt anything you want to it. It makes it super versatile. Then, how does this compete with the other alternatives from Sony, so that you wouldn't have a triple hammer, like Casey's Canon triple hammer, than coming here and starting complaining about it. Well, it definitely doesn't compete with the FX9, not with the FX6 either. Both of them are full frame and superior cameras. And I'm asking for a Super 35 sensor because I like the looks. It makes the price of the sensor manufacturing and the price of the lenses lower as well. So this is a different type of camera than maybe the full frame alternatives that are out there. Because of that sensor difference, it doesn't compete either with the Sony A7S3, which means that they could be in similar price bracket, and you would just have to make a hard choice between some more cinema-like features like the variable NDs and the XLR in the body itself and different battery solutions, comparing to full frame, better even slow-mo frame rates and options in the other one. So I think it makes it a tough choice. Then how does it compare to the Blackmagic offering, especially the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K? B-RAW is awesome, and they come with DaVinci Resolve, and those two things, I think they're very, very hard to beat. It would be super cool if Blackmagic would make B-RAW available for everybody else. It's my favorite format to work on and edit, even as a noob, small YouTube channel kind of person. Then it does have the EF mount natively, and that's, I think, great for people that have a lot of EF glass, which is a really, really popular mount, and I think it makes a lot of sense that they did that. However, because of the really long flange distance coming from the older DSLR with actual mirror in it, it's more difficult to adapt stuff to it. So maybe you're a bit more stuck when it comes to lens options. And then there's the things that I would really much like that the Sony FS3 would address, which is battery life, variable ND, autofocus, and form factor. Then comparing it to the Zcam E2S6, which kind of fixes some of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera problems, which is the battery life and form factor. And then it does have interchangeable mount, but it seems that the Sony E mount is not coming, or it comes from a third party, which is something that I probably should trust, but I don't know what third party it is, so I'm a little bit more skeptical anyway. And still, you have those problems of the variable ND, even if it seems that there is a module that you can buy whenever it's talking, you get what I mean. XLR microphone inputs without the need of special breakout cables, and in general, then that really tiny screen on top that you need to monitor external for sure. Then customizable buttons, and you need a cage for sure. I'm hoping that with the FS3 it would be like the FX5 and these kind of cameras that you don't need a cage and external rigging because it's pretty much a rig on its own. I would just prefer a Sony camera than a Zcam. Nothing to take away from the Zcam because they are great, and I'm sure that there's a public for it. I'm just stating what my preferences would be. Please don't hate. And then versus the C70, I guess I covered it already, but it's a Sony versus Canon thing. It's not about which one is better, it's about what preferences do you have, what lens choices does it give you, what lenses do you already own, and in general, what kind of form factor, looks of the camera, looks that you get from it, functionality, and what you're used to. I'm somewhat used to use Sony mirrorless cameras. The menus of the cinema cameras that I have seen, they are not that far away, meaning that maybe are not great, but I'm somewhat used to it, so I would prefer to have a Sony camera than a Canon one. Again, not hating, it's a matter of preferences. The C70, it's a great camera. And now, how about the price then? The FX9 will go for about 12K. These are round numbers because I'm not sure if I'm talking about euros or dollars and depending on the exchange rate, so just please bear with me. So FX9 12K, FX6 rumored at 7K. We have the A7S3 at 4.5K. The C70 is 5.7K. Then the Blackmagic, the 6K is about 2.5K, and the S6 3K, at least here in Europe. So I would say that a good price for the Sony FS3, which is this new camera that they will definitely be building after watching this video, would be about 4,500. That would put it in exactly the same price point that the Sony A7S3, with a very different set of features with a smaller sensor. So it would give a comparable option in price, but very different in functionality. So I think that would make it a clear distinction. It's why it's okay to have at that price. And then the jump from this one to the FX6 is significant enough to grant the extra functionalities. And then that magical Pro module in the back. It could go for like 1.5K or so. So you would have like a 6,000 euro Super Pro, Super 35 camera that I wouldn't need, but you could get it if you would need the extra functionality. And yeah, now I'm done with this. I don't think it's an unreasonable request. I think that most of the features I've been talking about are existing already in plenty of other Sony cameras. So it's a matter of making sure that the form factor works, that we get a kind of an update from the FS5, FS7, more in line with the FX6 and FX9, competing with the alternatives from other brands in that particular price bracket, size and functionality. Again, Pocket 6K, E2S6, and especially the C70. So the FS3 will be the alternative for that. And I think that you can do it, Sony. And once again, disclaimer, this is my opinions. All the other cameras I've been mentioning, they are great, but this is something that I would like a little bit more. And with that price, I'm not sure if I would be able to afford it, but I would have something to drool over for sure. So with all that said, if there's any product manager from Sony that would like to contact me, yeah, you didn't watch this video, that's okay. But for you that watch the video, what is your ideal non-release camera? And what is the use case that you see for it? And that can be, again, the substitute to the EX3000, or an evolution of another mirrorless body, or you want to revive the Samsung NX something. What is the ideal camera for you? My fanboyism is towards all brands. I don't hate any of them, and I'm just really happy that there is so much choice, because we're so diverse and people have so many different needs and different wants that having extra choices are great. And I guess I'm saying that, so please don't hate on my love for Sony and maybe complaints to other camera brands, because right now I'm shooting on a Sony, but I have a Pocket 4K behind me. I have a E2C, which I have lots of fun with. I've been shooting with Panasonic, and again, I'm not close to any. Fuji, I also like Fuji. I forgot about them, but I also like them. So appreciate all brands. Appreciate all people. Have a nice day. Please like and subscribe. And we're gonna see you soon for some more content. And hopefully the following videos will be a little bit more useful and a little bit more didactical, but I still wanted to share this with you.